curious. One can easily toss a gun into the sea from almost anywhere on the ship without being noticed. And yet, the murderer chose the one spot where it's not actually possible. The gangway is hard to miss. Why did the murderer drop the gun on the gangway? They must have noticed their mistake, even if their back was to the sea. So, why didn't they take the gun and throw it a few meters farther into the sea? I suppose the life jackets are stowed there, close to the railing, close at hand in case of emergency. I hope I don't find myself needing a life jacket. I'd really like to lie in the sun and take a nap. But I don't have time for that at the moment. No, Jakob. Business before pleasure. Big, soft towels. I could reserve a deck chair with it. No, better not. These things made quite a racket last night. I couldn't hear myself think. How wonderful. Sunshine and a blue sky above the Mediterranean Sea. It would be a perfect cruise day, if not for the murder. The ship must have been rebuilt at some point. I'm sure it didn't originally have such a modern glass roof. We were here yesterday when we heard the shot, and it was also here where Legrand caught our stowaway. The grate must be part of the ship's ventilation system. Nothing out of the ordinary. The grate shouldn't be so easy to open. Did the stowaway open it and we caught him in the act? No. The pipe is too narrow. He wouldn't fit in there. I guess the cover has been defective for a while. This isn't a panoramic deck for visitors. There are pipes, steel cables, chains up here. You can smell the smoke from the funnel. I have no idea how the ship works, and I really don't care, as long as it stays afloat. I could inform the captain that the grid has to be repaired, but if I start reporting all the problems on the ship, I'd have to shelve my murder investigation. ship's bridge. 2 men, one of them navigating. I get the impression that the officers keep things running. It seems like the captain concentrates on the passengers and the bar. I better let the men do their work. If one of them had detected something yesterday, he'd already have informed Legrand or the captain. Why is there an axe hanging here? I suppose it's for chopping through ropes in the event that the lifeboats can't be lowered. Or they use it to enforce who's allowed on the boat and who's not. A boat like this would also make a good hideout for a stowaway. Were the tarpaulins arranged like that on purpose so that no one could put them back in order once they get in? You can tell at a glance that everything is ship-shape with this boat. I guess our stowaway knocked me out. Whatever his story is, he's not a thief. Nothing's missing from my wallet. It may not seem like it, but Constable Oliver is actually a very effective watchman.
What's going on?
The Raven just flew by.
What?
Or at least, he might as well have.
I wasn't asleep.
I understand. It was just a ruse. Any conclusions about a young stowaway?
Yeah, he's a bit suspicious. Foreign and whatnot.
I see. Did he act suspiciously in any way?
No. The shot surprised him as much as it did me. Looked in on him earlier. Still seems to be asleep.
Covered with a blanket from head to toe?
Ah, he's still in there. I poked him.
May I go downstairs and have a couple of words with our guest?
No, you may not.
Come again?
Inspector Legrand wants to conduct all the interrogations himself.
I'm sure he'll understand if I form my own conclusions.
He ordered me to guard the door, and that's just what I'm going to do.
How about a bit of individual initiative?
How about letting a man do his job? Or do you think you'd be better at it?
What do you think? What happened here last night?
The Raven broke into the Baroness's cabin, she surprised him, and he shot her.
What was he looking for in her cabin?
She was a rich woman.
Why did he lock the door?
Why not?
From inside? An impressive trick.
I'm not saying I know how he did it. I'm just saying that it was him.
Why didn't he leave a raven feather?
Are you serious? We'd have suspected him straight away.
But fortunately, we still did. Let's assume that the old Raven really has returned and that he really is responsible for all this. Who is he? Or she?
Oh, could be anyone. No one's ever seen the Raven.
He could also be paying someone else to do his dirty work.
Well, of course. It's a fact that he used to work with partners. They even arrested some of his accomplices.
But no one could ever identify the Raven himself. Some claims that they didn't even know that they were working for him. Fascinating. He could have hired someone with financial difficulties to set off the alarm at a certain time without that person knowing why they were doing it.
The man Legrand shot back then, he was a famous safecracker. He could just as well have been a henchman.
Or the real Raven. There's probably no better cover for a big thief than acting like a small one. I don't want to keep you from your duties any longer.
Good idea.
if this game is an advanced version of bocce. Salty sea air in my old lungs, wind in my thinning hair. If I hadn't become a policeman, I could have been a sailor. The stowaway surely didn't sleep well last night in the cargo hold, although his cell is probably more comfortable than my cabin, and more spacious. He won't let me talk to our young friend. He respects Legrand far too much to disobey his orders. If I want to get into the cargo hold, I'll have to get rid of the constable first. I have to talk to the young fellow right away. If I want to get into the cargo hold, I'll have to get rid of the constable first. He won't let me talk to our young friend. That is Legrand's cabin. A model of the Lydia before it was rebuilt. It used to be a freighter. The wide hallways, the cabins, and the saloon were added later. An alarm like this one was set off yesterday. This one hasn't been set off. The security seal is intact. I'm not paying for this trip, and that's a fair price for my cabin. It's rather plain, shall we say. An evacuation plan, and some tips from the doctor for avoiding seasickness, sunburn, and the like. And here, a schedule of activities. A drink with the captain, a shuffleboard competition on the forecastle. That's about it. A real barrel of fun.
Come in.
Hello, Dr. Gebhardt.
And there's the next one.
Excuse me?
You want something else from me, don't you?
I'm afraid I do.
What a first day at work. Well,
What's the result of your examination of the victim?
she's dead.
I didn't make you work all night long, Dr. Gebhardt.
She was shot. Point-blank shot. Probably with a pistol. It seems like she was lying in bed. The shot struck her heart. She died immediately.
One shot?
More were unnecessary. And we only heard one shot, no?
And there's just one entrance wound.
Just one.
I am told that I was drugged.
That's how it seems.
What can you tell me about it?
Me? Why should that be my business?
Haven't you analyzed the glass?
No, I haven't. The inspector said he's the better chemist. I let him do it. That way I could at least concentrate on the body.
Do you think the Baroness might have been drugged? She was very tired and unsteady when Legrand and I saw her.
Yeah, I heard about that. I must have just missed her in the saloon. And without having seen her myself, it is hard to make a diagnosis.
Of course. Can you say something about her general health?
She was quite overweight, and the butler said that she suffered from diabetes. Despite that, she hadn't visited a doctor for several years.
Doesn't sound good.
Happens more frequently than you might suppose. Some people are scared of doctors and pay with an early death. It is possible that the Baroness wouldn't have lived much longer anyway.
Do you know whose glass I drank from?
What do you mean?
Captain de Conti handed me a glass of champagne. But where did he get it?
I don't know. Did you ask him?
I'm just asking because you were also in the saloon when the champagne was served.
Yes, but I only entered the saloon a few seconds before you did. I didn't manage to get a drink myself.
Which, in retrospect, is lucky.
Ah, you're right about that.
Have you already removed the bullet?
Did Legrand send you? What is that Frenchman's problem? I already told you. I will get in touch as soon as I have it. That is also what I told the constable, who he kept sending all night long, once I finally got rid of Legrand himself.
Did he look over your shoulder?
He probably wanted to take the scalpel from my hand and hack away himself. But this is my surgery, and I will not let amateurs interfere with my work.
That's understandable. How much longer will it take?
I have just finished. Send my regards to His Majesty.
Thanks. I think that's it for now.
No. That is it for now, then, and later. I'm going to lie down for a few hours. Can you tell that to your boss?
But... could I at least have the key?
Absolutely not.
But if we have to examine the victim again...
Then the esteemed inspector knows where to find me. In my cabin. In bed. Good night, Constable Zellner.
Neither Dr. Gebhardt nor Constable Oliver can keep up with Legrand's pace. But in contrast to good old Robert, the doctor doesn't let himself get roped in for the long haul. I wonder what would happen if Legrand dragged him out of bed for another investigation. Dr. Gebhardt locked the door, and until I have good reason, I won't wake him up. Something tells me that he wouldn't be amused. Dr. That's the bullet from the Baroness's corpse. I don't know much about guns. Legrand will be able to tell me more about it.
Come in. Ah, Zellner, are you ready?
Good morning, Inspector Legrand. My head is pounding, but I think I'm okay.
Chloral hydrate.
Hmm?
That's why you have a headache. I found traces of it in your champagne glass.
What have you found out so far?
The Baroness was shot in the chest at close range. We heard the shot. The murderer quickly fled the cabin and dropped the murder weapon over the railing later. A simple story so far.
But why was her cabin door locked?
Exactly. If the murderer wanted to make it seem like a suicide, he'd have shot her in the head and left the gun at the crime scene.
And if it was murder, why did he go to all the trouble of locking the door from inside? And how did he manage that anyway?
Especially since we arrived just a few seconds later and didn't see anyone near the cabin.
Something doesn't make sense here.
No, it doesn't, and it's driving me crazy.
Did you find the murder weapon?
On the gangway on the side of the ship. I suspect the murderer tried to drop it into the sea. He would have stood close to the railing to let it fall unseen.
And since he doesn't know the ship, he had bad luck and dropped it right onto the gangway.
Indeed. And do you find that probable?
Not a bit.
Neither do I.
What kind of a gun is it?
A pistol, a Luger 08.
Antique.
Manufactured 1,000,000 times during and after the First World War. Austrian model. The owner is David Kreutzer, the violinist. We found him tonight totally drunk on the bow of the ship. He confirmed that it's his gun, but he claims that it was stolen from him.
Fingerprints?
Nothing. But it's worth mentioning that the clip was missing 2 bullets.
And it's definitely the murder weapon.
The ballistic tests are incomplete. Actually, I've been waiting far too long for the bullet recovered from the corpse. Pay the good doctor a visit, Zellner, and see that he does his job.
About the bullet, here it is.
Excellent. Give it to me. As I suspected, a 7.65 Parabellum Luger.
Don't you want to examine it in more detail?
When I have time. For now, we can assume that we had the murder weapon. There can't be too many antique Luger 08 pistols on board.
May I take a look at the Baroness's cabin?
We already searched it thoroughly.
Sure. But what about now, by daylight?
Yes, fine, it can't hurt. Here, take this with you.
Thanks. I'll let you know if I find anything important.
But only then, please. I'm very busy.
Of course. Do you believe the violinist?
He'll be the first person I question. He claims he can't remember anything from the last few hours. Says he drank a bottle of schnapps.
He was on the train and he doesn't have an alibi. His drunkenness could be a smokescreen.
He fits the profile. He travels a lot, has access to high society. Could be interesting.
And this chloral hydrate?
Is a tranquilizer. Can be dissolved in alcohol. The effect begins in minutes and lasts for hours. Who gave you the glass of champagne?
I believe it was Captain de Conti.
If believing were enough for us, we'd have become priests, Constable. Be a policeman and find out for sure.
Understood. You think that the jewel thief is the murderer?
Our friend would have needed another key to open the safe and steal the second eye, the one the Baroness was carrying. At least, that's what we implied.
What do you mean?
The Baroness was famous for her forgetfulness. I convinced her to give me the third key. It seems safer for the eye.
The thief searches the Baroness's cabin looking for the third key.
She returns from the saloon earlier than expected.
Surprises him, and he can't allow her to identify him.
He imprisons her until the coast is clear, and then shoots her.
And thus, the thief becomes a murderer.
But still doesn't have all the keys.
Are you sure that there's no bomb inside this time?
Professor Lucien locked it in front of an audience, and it will be opened for the first time in Cairo.
Let's hope so.
It would take hours to crack it, and you'd need heavy machinery.
Or the keys.
Or the 3 keys, that's right.
Do you really think that the Raven is behind all this?
He wrote the letter that was on the safe in the train. Without the letter, we wouldn't have opened the safe, and the bomb wouldn't have exploded.
But it doesn't seem like him, does it? The Raven was famous in part because he never hurt anyone, much less killed anyone, during a burglary.
It's his handwriting, and he called me Nico. No one else does that. I chased that man across Europe for years. It is him. It has to be him.
But the evidence...
Enough.
I'll be on my way. I want to find out who gave me the drugged champagne.
Good idea.
Inspector Legrand? Are you okay? Maybe you should take a break.
I can sleep once I've caught the Raven. Goodbye, Constable.
Be seeing you. Legrand is risking not just his career, but his health as well on his hunt for the Raven. He's working like a demon. Maybe that's why he caught the Raven and no one else.